Okay, so this is going to be my first video talking about why you can't exactly listen to the left or the right. And of course, we're going to start with SJWs. Why you just cannot listen to the left these days because they're absolutely insane. I sit slightly center to the left when it comes to my political stance, so hopefully this will open the eyes of the rest of the people on the left as to why they can't act so fucking crazy. We'll be reacting to SJW cringe. If it'd hurry up and get to it.
Anger in the streets when a kosher cafe opens in Boyle Heights. Neighbors want it shut down. The LAPD kept protesters back as demonstrators shouted at people at the grand opening.
And they're not just angry over gentrification, it's the owner's views that also have them riled up. KCON 9's Dave Lopez is live in Boyle Heights with details on the controversy. Dave?
Well, standing in front of this cafe, the man who owns this is an immigrant. He has a number of companies, very successful businessman. Of his 70 employees, he told me that nearly all of them are immigrants. He also said he supports Trump and his immigration policies, and because he posted that, that's where all the problems started.
Alright, so this is definitely right off the bat showing why listening to SJWs on the left is completely insane, because you cannot have an opposing view. First off, for the most part, they say if you agree with Trump on just about anything, you're some sort of racist or sexist. Yeah, you know, this dude, I highly doubt is a racist, considering he's not even white, you know. They call everybody a Nazi and everything. They call Ben Shapiro a Nazi, and that's a Jew. One thing that the Nazis were real big on was suppressing political beliefs that they disagreed with, and they were I'll have to get into Nazis some other time, but suppressing people's political beliefs was definitely a big part of what they're doing. So they're calling people out for being Nazis, even though what they're doing is a hell of a lot closer to being a Nazi than what anybody on the right is doing at the moment, except for the crazy ass racist homophobes that are of course on the right. But what people need to understand is that's not the entire right. That's just the far, far right that believes in that crazy shit. For the most part, most people on the right are just normal, everyday people trying to make it through their fucking day, like everyone else is. Just call them all Nazis because they just don't believe in the same things you do is absolutely insane. You know, I believe in a lot of the same shit people on the left do. I believe everybody has the right to do what they want. I believe women should have the right to fucking have an abortion if they so choose. I believe we definitely do need to make it a little easier for immigrants to make it into this country, but at the same time, I understand there's a need to definitely limit the amount of immigrants coming in here. Yeah, and not to just open the borders like the left seems to think we should. We shouldn't do that. That gives the opportunity for criminals and terrorists to come into our country and kill a bunch of people. Or bring drugs and all this other shit into our country that we don't want here. You don't want drugs coming in here. You don't want terrorists coming in here. So the best way to prevent that shit from happening is tough border security.
So what's the connection? This is what I don't understand. I'm confused. The connection between Donald Trump and a good coffee.
30 years ago, Asher Shalom immigrated from his native Israel to the United States. He told me he cried like a baby when he became a U.S. citizen. And he also said he supports Donald Trump and his immigration policies. And he can't understand why that's so wrong.
Everything changed in one day.
He was all set for a grand opening of his new kosher cafe in Boyle Heights, not far from downtown Los Angeles. The Boyle Heights Chamber of Commerce had invited him to be a member. They were going to be there to help celebrate. Then he got this email from the chamber president, Jennifer Lahuda, saying that because he posted this on his Facebook page, they called it an anti-immigrant posting. He could no longer be a member of the chamber. They weren't going to show up at the grand opening. And then a group known as Defend Boyle Heights started posting on their social media what was happening, and they called for a boycott, a big boycott.
So now we have a full line of police here at Asher Cafe.
It was very scary. There was a lot of people protesting outside, wearing masks.
They really intensely protested and accosted all the visitors that came to our grand opening event.
And they threw a significant amount of feces at our windows.
Shalom says all because he expressed on social media his opinion about Trump and immigrants.
I don't think politics should get in the way of good food. I support him in that. I will come and give him my business.
This is part of what the chamber wrote to Shalom. Boyle Heights thrives because of our diverse immigrant population. The chamber will always celebrate and support this fact. We will not support anyone who chooses to conduct themselves in a hateful manner, especially towards members of our community.
See, this right here immediately shows you just how crazy it is. He expresses the fact that he supports Trump, and then they consider that some sort of hate speech or acting hateful towards people of their community. It's not. The fact is that Trump had ideas that a lot of people agreed with. A lot of people agree with tougher border security. While I don't necessarily totally agree with it, I do understand the importance of border security. Also bringing back jobs and not turning this into a socialist country. I totally understand the appeal of people wanting this to be a socialist country. I get it. You want everybody to be equal, make the same amount of money. I get the appeal of that. But at the same time, that's a system that will never work. Let me put it like this. If everybody's going to make the same amount of money anyway, regardless of what job you do or how hard you work, then what would be the point in actually going out there and working hard? I work a construction job myself. Now, if I was going to make the same amount of money working at McDonald's, why would I go out and break my back at a construction site? You know what I mean? It don't make no sense. I might as well just take my ass to McDonald's and work an easy, cushy job. Now, McDonald's may not be easy, but it's a hell of a lot easier than it is working construction. Because you work outside, sweating all fucking day, having to carry wood, hang plywood, fucking all other kinds of shit. It's not an easy job. And then that also defeats the purpose of actually doing any type of work. Like, if you're just going to make the same amount anyway, why put in the effort to do a good job when you're on the job site? Just get there, get through the fucking day, get your paycheck, and go home. I get why they think socialism is a good idea, but it's not. It has failed everywhere it's been, and it will continue to fail everywhere it's been. These people who are anti-Trump cause more hate than they do anything else. They're literally causing the exact opposite of what they think they are. A lot of these political movements are. Black Lives movement, for instance, is causing a lot more animosity towards black people than there has been in decades. A lot of people are looking at the Black Lives movement going, wow, this is a group of fucking crazy people. And that's going to cause some dumbasses to look at them and be all like, man, if this is the way black people conduct themselves, it ain't no wonder there's racists out there. You're literally pushing people towards the exact opposite opinions that we want them to believe. We're literally fucking up decades of progress we have made in just a matter of a few years. 60% of the country believe we're going to be in a civil war within the next 5 to 10 years because of all these politically correct movements. The thing is that if a civil war breaks out, millions of people are going to die. Millions. Here in our state, in our country. Those deaths aren't going to be on the anti-SJW's hands. They're going to be on the SJW's hands. Social justice warriors. Because you're actually having the exact opposite effect of what you're fighting for. A lot of statistics that we have seen go down in decades are now starting to reverse their trends. And that's because of these politically correct movements going on. You're acting hostile towards literally everybody. Specifically straight white men. Now, I'm a white guy, but I'm bisexual, okay? I don't believe in the whole they pronouns, you know. You shouldn't be forced to call people they or them until, you know, regardless. I don't think you should have to call them they or them. And the reason being is you have to earn the respect to be called what you want. Alright? You're just going to come out there and call all straight white men bigoted, racist people, but then you expect them to respect your pronoun usage while you're hating on them at the same time. A lot of y'all ain't earned the right to be called what you want. You have to earn it. It's like money. You don't just get handed money because you want money. You have to go out there and earn it. Well, if you want to be called he or she or they or them, then you have to earn that respect from the people that you're wanting to call you that. Now, if you've been nice to people and everything, treated them with respect, and they still don't want to call you what you want, then yeah, I can agree with your issue then. Alright? But you can't force people to call you what you want, and just because they don't mean that they're sexist, bigoted, racist people.
Nothing true.
Shalom is a respected businessman who has been honored by both the city and the county for his generous works.
My last name is Shalom, and I love peace.
We reached out to both organizations, Defend Boyle Heights and the Chamber, and we were told very, very strongly that neither organization would go on camera to make any comments.
Well, the age of baby boys and baby girls appears to have come to a close. The most avant-garde parents are now raising babies. They don't have a gender. How does that work? Liberal Sherpa Kathy Aru, of course, knows the answer. She joins us next. Having a baby used to be a straightforward proposition. You could have a boy or you could have a girl. But now there's a third option. It's called steep civilizational decline. A handful of parents across America are deliberately keeping their children's sex hidden and instead raising so-called babies. The idea is that only the children themselves should be able to decide whether they are boys or girls, without any of that pesky biological reality getting in the way. It's all very confusing, like a lot of 2018 is, so of course we called in our interpreter of all things progressive, our liberal Sherpa, Kathy Aru, founding publisher of Catalina Magazine. She joins us tonight. So, Kathy, goes without saying you're for this, of course.
Yep.
But doesn't this mean if you're going to raise a baby, how would you be able to change your child's diaper? Because the second you change the diaper, of course, you'd no longer be able to pretend that there was a question about whether this was a boy or a girl. You would know.
Well, it's not about pretending. The parent definitely knows the gender. It's about not necessarily labeling the baby. It's about allowing the baby to decide what gender that baby wants to be when that baby can decide, which is around 4 years old. So from 0 to 4, the baby will not be labeled. The labeling theory will not apply from 0 to 4 years old. The baby will be a baby, neither a boy nor a girl. Whatever gender that baby chooses to be.
What other profound life decisions do we think people ought to be making at the age of 4? Are there any others?
Alright, right here. This just goes to show how crazy the left has gotten. Naturally, a 4-year-old does not have the mental capacity to decide whether or not it's a boy or girl. Be honest, I don't even think up until you hit your teens you really have the capacity to decide whether or not you're a boy or a girl, you know. We have biological differences that show themselves almost immediately after birth. Like, we take babies and we automatically, like, studies have been done that show that babies have differences between the sexes. Baby girls, when you put toys down in front of them, tend to go for a Barbie. rather than some type of mechanical item, while boys tend to go for the mechanical item instead. Because men tend to have a habit of liking to figure out how things work, while women seem to have more of a maternal instinct, wanting to take care of someone. Yeah, I mean, these are biological differences that have evolved over time. This isn't something that was constructed by society. And you can tell it's not something that was constructed by our society because you see the same thing in animals. Female animals act way differently than male animals do. Male animals tend to be more violent and, typically they tend to be more violent. They're the protective part of their species, protecting the females, also hunting for food, and all this other stuff, while female animals tend to be more nurturing of their offspring. Now, this is not true for all animals. There are differences between different species. But it shows that even in animals, there are distinct differences between females and males right off the bat, with no cultural, influences put into place. Now, at the same time, I think that as parents, we do need to support the children with whatever they want. I think naturally this type of thing started because all of them videos kept surfacing online of people coming out to their parents about them being gay and them disowning the child right then and there. And I think that's fucked up. Like, if you can't support your child because it's gay, then you shouldn't be having fucking children. You know, and it's just as simple as that. Let's keep going.
Whether to get a tattoo, whether to get married, enlisting in the military, voting, drinking vodka, smoking Marlboro Reds. Is there anything else that we think 4-year-olds are ready to decide?
This isn't actually a profound life decision. I mean, biologically, there's nothing really going on from 0 to 4 in that area that affects a person's life. Biologically, the experts say that boys and girls, all genders are alike. The boys...
Right here, she's full of shit. Okay? This just goes to show that a lot of the left don't know what the hell they're talking about. You know, which, like I said at the beginning of the video, I am center left of the political spectrum. Like, I understand you want people to be able to make their choices, and people respect that. I get that, you know, I totally understand it, but you can't lie like this, because you're just going to lose support. It's fucking insane. It's crazy. A 4-year-old does not have the capacity to decide that kind of shit. When I was 4, I didn't. I am a totally different person from who I was when I was a 4-year-old. When I was a teenager, I swore up and down I was just out and out straight. And then, you know, it wasn't until my 20s that I realized that I have a slight attraction to men, and, well, it's not even dudes, really. I have a thing for trannies, for sure. Only if they're girly looking, though. That's just my personal preferences, but the point is I didn't even know a lot of this shit about myself until later on in life. And it wasn't because people were telling me that's not the way you should be. It's just that's how I ultimately figured myself out, is through time and experimenting. It wasn't the culture that told me this, it was myself. My mom was actually extremely supportive. She thought that I should have been bisexual from the get-go, because you have, when you go into a bar, you have the choice of the whole bar to choose from. At least that's the way she put it. Mom's a little crazy. Let's keep going.
Brain, the male brain might be a little larger. The female's language might be a little bit more advanced.
Okay, no sexism on my show. Hold on, whoa, slow down. No, you're out there like boys' brains are larger, and I just want to say that kind of toxic masculinity has no place in this program.
Sorry,
thank you very much.
But that's all
but
that you think of.
The bottom line is, all they can think of, like, difference in brain size, difference in genitalia, difference in bone structure. Just minor things like things like that. They're not perhaps, like, factually. So those are not minor things. Those are definitive things.
Minor.
So, like, why would you...
He's absolutely right. Those are not minor differences. Those are significant differences. Significant.
Not tell your kids about that. At some point they're going to drop trow and look down and say, wait, we look different. And you're going to be like, no you don't, you're exactly the same.
And
that's lying, isn't it?
That's when the child, they say, is around 4 years old. So around 0 to 4, we're not going to say to a little female, a girl that you're a little princess, or boy, you're such a tiger. The labels are gone.
Ultimately, I don't really got a problem with this particular thing right here, with them wanting to call babies babies. If you want to wait until your child decides whether or not it's a boy or a girl, that's perfectly fine. But the issue I have is a lot of these SJW groups are forcing that onto their kids, wanting them to be transgendered and all that other thing, all that other stuff. Like, we got stories of people taking their infants into doctors to immediately start transferring them from a male to a female, or from a female to a male, getting them sex changes, hormone therapy, and all that at early ages, which is nuts, because most of that's going to cause these people to most likely resent themselves later on in the future. I don't think we should give them the choice, this particular choice, until they're older and are actually able to understand themselves. It's fucking crazy what these people are doing. It really is. And I'm not at all a fan of a lot of the people on the right. And we will get to debunking a lot of the shit the right people, or people on the right, say as well. But let's continue on.
You're not going to put that outside influence on a child. You're just going to be neutral. Everything's going to be neutral.
The outside influence of biological reality. So would you do this with anything else? But could we decide that we're not going to acknowledge temperature or weather or traffic? And you could just say, you know what, I don't think it's raining outside. Or you can decide whether it's raining outside. I mean, the weatherman says it is, that there's snow on the ground. Or the weather, you know what I mean? The weatherman says that it's 15 degrees out. But I'm going to, you know what I mean, just kind of make up my own reality.
This right here, though, does demonstrate the problem I have with the right. Is when they make arguments a lot of the time against this shit, it's not even really able to be compared. Because, deciding what the weather is, of course, that's a totally different situation than deciding what your sex is. If you're going to create arguments with people, at least have it to where in the context of the argument it makes sense. And in this case, he's not. And this is a problem I see with a lot of people, because I see it with Ben Shapiro and a lot of them other high up anti-SJW people. Fucking stick within the parameters of the argument you're having. Don't wander off.
Parents who are really leading this
movement. We acknowledge biology and nature as real, right?
But the biology, the parents who came out with this, who came out in the New York Times and started this baby awareness, this gender-neutral awareness for babies, basically said, why should people be so obsessed if your baby is going to be a boy or a girl? Who cares about that area? It's actually a little human. We are bringing a little human into the world. Who cares about the genitalia? Who cares?
May I just suggest why? And this isn't just my opinion, but the opinion of every person who's ever lived going back, let's just say 10,000 years for the sake of neatness. Because men and women are completely different in key ways.
Babies?
Can we not say that anymore?
Babies are different. Babies are different. They're little human beings, and there's really...
Babies are, in fact, different. And this is a problem with the left, is they don't seem to understand that fact. Like I said, studies have been done that have proven this fact.
Not much of a difference between different genders. No. There is no difference. And men and women, we would say, are equal.
I'm trying to laugh so I don't cry. Kathy Rue, you can be equal but different, which they are. Great to see you.
So the media has a grand interest in turning idiot parents into a trend. Their latest trend that they like is what they're calling babies. And of course, not rabies, babies. What are babies? Okay, this is that you are raising your children without gender, which is idiocy because you're supposed to teach your kids about things that make them healthy, not things that make them unhealthy. Okay, the fact is that if you're confusing your 2-year-old about gender, then you are being an idiot. Like, this is my great question about this stuff. How do you think you're helping your kid? Like, really, do you think it helps your kid not to give them any guidance at all? Would you let your kid not go to school because your kid doesn't know anything about reading? And maybe your kid is better off not reading. Maybe reading is a societal construct. And we know there are lots of bad things that come from reading, like being on Twitter. We know there are terrible things that come from education, like a certain sense of non-equality with others. You're an elitist. But now we've got parents who have decided to raise their kids without a gender designation, which, again, how does this help the kid? Nobody the hell knows. So this is from Cambridge, Massachusetts, because of course it is. Of course the home of Harvard is the center of stupidity in the universe. They say 3-year-old twins, Zyler and Caden Sharp, scurried around the boys and girls clothing racks of a narrow consignment store filled with toys. Zyler, wearing rainbow leggings, scrutinized a pair of hot pink and purple sneakers. Caden, in a T-Rex shirt, fixated on a musical cube that flashed colorful lights. At a glance, the only discernible difference between these fraternal twins is their hair. Zyler's is brown and Caden's is blonde. Is Zyler a boy or a girl? How about Caden? That's a question their parents, Nate and Julia Sharp, say only the twins can decide. Or biology. Right? Or we could alternatively look at their genitals. The Cambridge, Massachusetts couple represents a small group of parents raising babies, children being brought up without gender designation from birth. A Facebook community for these parents currently claims about 220 members across the United States. How you think this is good for your kid is beyond me. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, so I know a fair bit about raising kids of precisely this age. And listen, I've said on this program, when my daughter was 2 years old, you know what she really liked? Trucks and buses. Did I care? Not at all, because I don't think that it is a natural indicator of masculinity or femininity for a 2-year-old to like trucks or buses. And you know what? Now she's 4, and she only wants to wear princess dresses. It's the only thing she wants to do. You know why? Because that's what girls typically want to do. That said, my 2-year-old son, right, he also likes trucks and buses. If he started wanting to wear princess dresses, you know what I would say to him? I would say, no, that's a girl thing. That's what your sister does. You know what you do? You do fun boy things, like you play baseball. That's not a bad thing. I'm not saying...
Alright, right here, I kind of disagree with Ben Shapiro. He has proven on numerous occasions he's a bit of an idiot. At the same time, he's also proven on numerous occasions that he's got a fucking brain, which is weird why he acts so fucking stupid and so smart at the same fucking time. This man's against women being allowed to get abortions, and I kind of get his reasoning behind it because he thinks that both men and women should have the choice on whether or not the baby gets brought into this world, whereas, you know, current day laws only dictate that the woman has a choice in it. If she don't want the kid, then she's legally allowed to get an abortion in some states without any input from the man. But at the same time, you know, men shouldn't always have the opinion in it, especially if the person they're having a child with was raped. You know what I mean? If the guy raped the fucking woman, then he should have no fucking opinion whatsoever on whether or not that baby is brought into the world. Only she should. This is a issue with a lot of religious people, though, in abortion. Yeah, most religious people seem to be against it, and I don't understand that. At the point that babies or people are allowed to get abortions, what they're aborting is not even technically a human at that point. It's just cells that are getting ready to form a person, stem cells. That's another topic for another time. Ben Shapiro, like I said, he proves himself to be a fucking idiot sometimes, and then at the same time, he proves himself to be a fucking intelligent guy. That seems to be a habit amongst a lot of these anti-SJWs. I recommend watching his videos, though, you know, so you can formulate your own opinion. I also recommend you watch TJ Kirk talk about this dude, because TJ will point out the stupidity a hell of a lot easier than I will. TJ Kirk's also known as the Amazing Atheist, if y'all don't know.
My daughter can't play baseball. I am saying that my son cannot wear dresses, because I want my son to be secure in his own masculinity. And it turns out that being a man means accepting some of the societal constraints around manhood. Okay, now that doesn't mean when he's 18 or 20, he can't make his own decisions. That's when you're 18 or 20. But when he's 2, I get to make those decisions. And I want to inculcate in my son a feeling that he is a boy, a strong boy, who's going to grow up to have manly responsibilities for taking care of women and children, manly responsibilities for defending a civilization that makes important distinctions between men and women. I think there is a good reason that the Bible says that boys should not dress as girls and girls should not dress as boys, because every society in human history has made distinctions between how males dress and females dress. And don't give me the Scottish wear kilts. That's correct. Men wear kilts and women wear dresses. Okay, every society in history has had distinctions, and those distinctions are deeply important because they inculcate different...
It's because every society in history has made a distinct difference don't necessarily mean they're right. And I believe people should have the freedom to do whatever the hell they want. And there have been societies in history who were extremely open to men taking on more feminine roles. Even some in the Bible, of course, in the Bible, they fucking wind up saying that the reason that society failed was for those reasons. Which is clearly not true. Societies have failed throughout time for a number of different reasons, whether it be being conquered, going broke, or whatever the reason. There's plenty of other reasons why societies have failed. But to say that throughout time, all of society has had these differences is just false. It's just not true.
Responsibilities that are indeed rooted in biology. The idea that all of gender is a construct is simply not backed by science, nor is it healthy for society or even for individuals. If there are people who are confused, then we have to figure out how to deal with that. But to inculcate the confusion as a point of politics is an evil thing to do to a child.
Hello, my name is...
Alright, so this is the first part of this, because I'm clearly going to have to look up, a video where the right takes center stage on the stupid shit that they do. But this right here definitively shows that the left has a lot of stupid shit they believe. There's even more that they do that's absolutely ridiculous that we'll get into later. But one thing I want to point out, though, is that people jumping down Trump's throat because of the whole immigration thing seem to always ignore the fact that Obama also supported these same immigration policies, at least up until Trump started to support them. I voted for Obama, but then I also voted for Trump. Biggest reason I voted for Trump, though, was because Hillary was an absolutely terrible choice, extremely corrupt. If you do your research on Hillary, you can tell just how corrupt she is. This whole thing with Trump is fucking crazy. The Russian investigation, which has actually come out to prove that Hillary had just as much of a connection with Russia as Trump ever has. He accepted $500 million from Russia during the campaign run that they had. The question is, what was she supposed to do for that $500 million? Not to mention, there is, in fact, a trail of dead people behind Hillary. A lot of people who have come out and spoken out against her have just fucking died under mysterious circumstances. Not to mention her leaking sensitive information to other countries. Hillary is not a good person to have as a president. And I'm so glad she didn't get it. And to be honest, I'm kind of mad that I even voted for Obama with the way he's just, completely turned around his fucking stories. He said while the president's election was going on that there's no possible way for Russia to interfere with the elections, and then he turns around when Trump gets it and says, well, Russia interfered with the elections and that's how Trump got it. No, Trump got it because a lot of people wanted him to be president. And the fact of a lot of these social justice warrior groups deciding that they want to incite violence against Trump supporters is ridiculous. You see it all over the place. That one lady that said, if you see a Trump supporter anywhere, form a group around them and harass them and all this other nonsense. She is fucking nuts. And people should start harassing her and show her what the fuck she was supporting. You know, I mean, naturally, I don't actually think people should do that, but if people did, it would give her a taste of her own medicine. Because she clearly is unaware of what she was advocating for. The potential for violence during those types of situations it's not a good idea to do that. Not a good idea. And Trump really made a lot of these guys look like a fucking idiot to begin with. In Obama's speech, talking about Trump, talking about the jobs, asking, oh, well, what magic wand are you going to use to bring jobs back? Well, I'm not sure what magic wand he did use, but he found that fucking magic wand, didn't he? And he made Trump look like a total dipshit. Or not Trump, but Obama. Pfft, my bad. This is my first video. I'm going to do a part 2 of the same one, so I can look at the right a little more closely, because right now this was more focused on the left. Now, I know I don't sound like I'm the smartest of individuals, and I'm probably not. You know, I have a difficulty articulating what I'm trying to say sometimes, and I admit that to be an issue. But I think I'm definitely going to bring a viewpoint that's not fucking seen. Or at least, I'll bring a viewpoint that's not talked about too often. And the only thing people seem to focus on is the crazy-ass right or the crazy-ass left. Where the left makes everybody out on the right to be completely insane, homophobic, racist, which is totally not true. That's about as false as you can get it. Thank you for watching. This has been The Century Left. Stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you and goodbye.